Ever wondered about the weirdest ways that people have died? From getting crushed by a falling cow to literally dying from laughter, history is filled with a ton of weird and unusual deaths. And this is the series where I go over and I cover them. I'm not really sure how many I've done at this point, but I'm going to make sure that I link the entire playlist somewhere up above me. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Jimmy Ferrozzo, 1983. A bizarre death occurred at the Condor Club in November of 1983. Bouncer Jimmy Ferrozzo and his girlfriend, exotic dancer Teresa Hill, decided after hours to have sex on the famous white piano on which Carol Doda made her entrance while being lowered from the ceiling by cables. Basically, that's how this piano worked. It used to drop in from these cables. Now, they accidentally hit the on switch while they were doing it, and the piano rapidly rose to the ceiling, trapping the couple. Ferrozzo was asphyxiated, while Hill only survived because she was a little bit skinnier than her boyfriend. So basically, Jimmy must have been fat, and when he got stuck to the ceiling, he was just getting crushed, and obviously he couldn't breathe. So I'm assuming that he was kind of taking up, a little chunk of the space, leaving her some room to breathe. But that's just my assumption. Anyways, we're going on to the next one. That's a short one. Jon-Erik Hexum. On October 12th of 1984, the cast and crew of Cover Up were filming the 7th episode of the series Golden Opportunity on Stage 18 of the 20th Century Fox's lot. Now, one of these scenes filmed that day called for Hexum's character to load cartridges into a .44 Magnum handgun, so he was provided with a functional gun and a bunch of blank bullets. Sure, you can see where this is going. When the scene did not play out as the director wanted to, there was actually a delay in the filming because of this. Hexum became restless and impatient during the delay and began playing around to lighten the mood. He basically unloaded the gun, but all but one bullet, trying to play some Russian roulette type of thing. He put the revolver to his right temple and pulled the trigger. Sure, you could see where this went, you know what I mean? The explosive effect of the muzzle blast caused enough blunt force trauma to fracture a quarter-sized piece of his skull to propel into his brain, causing massive hemorrhaging. Now, Hexum was rushed to Beverly Hills Medical Center, where he underwent 5 hours of surgery to try to repair his skull and brain. And October 18th, aged 26, 6 days after the accident, Hexum was declared brain dead. With his mother's permission, his body was flown to San Francisco on life support, where his heart was transplanted into a 36-year-old Las Vegas man at California Pacific Medical Center. Honestly, real ass move, shout out to her. Hexum's kidneys and corneas were also donated. One cornea went to a 66-year-old man, the other went to a young girl. One of his kidney recipients was a critically ill 5-year-old boy, and the other one was a 43-year-old grandmother of 3 who waited 8 years for this kidney. Now, Hexum's body was then flown back to Los Angeles. He was cremated at Grandview Crematory in Glendale, California, and a private funeral was actually held later on. His ashes ended up being scattered into the Pacific Ocean near Malibu by his mother, and he was left with an estate to be worth about $255,000. And the death was ruled accidental. Obviously, he was dumb, but he didn't think that was going to happen. His mother later received an out-of-court settlement from 20th Century Fox, and we don't know how much that was worth, but whatever it was, definitely was not worth losing her kid. I mean, I could definitely imagine me doing something that dumb, to be honest with you, especially if I thought it was blanks, but I don't know, I've heard that story go down too many times, so, I couldn't do that shit. Anyways, that's all for that. RIP to Hexum. Shout out to his mom for basically donating his organs after and helping a lot of people. You already heard how many people it went to, so yeah, shout out to her for that. Shout out to him if that was his choice, but either way, shout out to her. Alright, last up for this video, Brandon Lee. Lee was the son of martial artist and film star Bruce Lee, who died when Brandon was only 8 years old. Now, Brandon, who also followed in his father's footsteps, also trained in martial arts and studied acting at Emerson College and the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute, so he was kind of following in his father's footsteps. On March 31st, 1993, Lee was filming a scene for the film The Crow in which his character is shot and killed by a couple thugs. In the scene, Lee's character walks into his apartment and discovers his fiancée being beaten and assaulted by the thug played by actor Michael Massey. He ends up firing a Smith & Wesson model .44 Magnum revolver at Lee's character as he ends up walking into the room. Now, in a film shoot prior to the fatal scene, the gun that was used as a prop, which is a real revolver by the way, was loaded with improperly made dummy rounds, improvised from live cartridges that had the powder charges removed by the special effects crew. So in close-ups, the revolver would show normal looking ammunition, but it was supposed to be blanks basically, you know what I mean? So I don't know how much you're trusting them, and why you shouldn't put their trust in them is because the crew neglected to remove the primers from the cartridges, and at some point before the fatal event, one of the rounds had actually been fired. Although there were no powder charges, the energy from the ignited primers was enough to separate the bullet from the casing and push it partway into the gun barrel, where it ended up getting stuck, which is already a terrible condition. Like, if you have a gun license, you know you're supposed to check, you know what I mean? You check everywhere, you triple check before you hand it off or anything. So they definitely fucked up with this one for sure. During the fatal scene, which called for the revolver to be fired at Lee from a distance of about 3 to 5 meters, which is about 12 to 15 feet, the dummy cartridges were replaced with blank rounds, which actually do contain a powder charge and the primer, but no solid bullet, allowing the gun to be fired with the sound and flash effects without the risk of an actual projectile shooting out. However, like we said, the gun was not properly checked and cleared before the blank was fired, and the dummy bullet that was previously lodged in the barrel was then basically propelled forward by the blank and shot out the muzzle with almost the exact same force as if it was a live round, and it ended up hitting Brandon in the abs. After Massey pulled the trigger and shot Lee, Lee fell backwards instead of forwards as he was supposed to, and when the director said cut, Lee did not stand up, and the crew thought he was either still acting or that he was just joking. They didn't even realize it at the time. Jeff Amata, who immediately checked Lee, noticed something was wrong when he came up close and noticed that Lee was actually unconscious and breathing really heavily. Medic Clyde Baisley went to Lee and shook him to see if he was dazed by hitting his head during the fall, but did not think Lee had been shot since there was no visible bleeding, which is kind of crazy to me. Baisley took Lee's pulse, which was regular, but within 2 to 3 minutes it slowed down dramatically and then stopped altogether. Lee was rushed to the New Hanover Regional Medical Center in Wilmington, North Carolina. Attempts to save him were unsuccessful, and after about 6 hours of emergency surgery, Lee was pronounced dead on March 34, 1993 at 1:03 p.m. He was 28 years old, and the shooting was ruled an accident due to negligence. Lee's death led to the reemergence of conspiracy theories surrounding his father's similarly early death, and Lee was actually buried next to his father at the Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle, Washington. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just think that is fucked up. Like, him and his dad both died. Just fucked up, bro. They were both pretty young. I mean, he was only 28. The other kid was only 26. They both died basically the same way. Not exactly, but close enough that you would be like, oh shit, that's fucked up. Yeah, man, it's just sad, bro. It's sad to see that people are fucking going out like that. Like, that is ridiculous. The one guy, at least, you know what I mean? At least he was going out. You know what I mean? He was getting something at the end. Like, fuck it. That's a terrible way to go out. But at the same time, it's not that bad. I'd rather laugh to death, though, to be honest. So, like I said at the beginning, if these interest you for some weird reason, I do have an entire playlist of them. I'll put them up somewhere here, or I'll put the videos to pop up somewhere. But yeah, that's about it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment if you hate it or whatever. I don't really care. And yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Get laid. Deuces.